His wife actually took a photo of him playing video games, and there's a bong and it's just a mess everywhere. And she gave him the Polaroid picture, and he looked at it and he's like, damn, like, I need to do something. I was born and raised in sunny California, so Los Angeles, California. So that transition already it was just so cold. I'm actually 5 feet and 4 inches, and I don't know. This accomplishment was for all the young girls that looked like me, that are Pacific Islander or Latina, that didn't have the opportunity or didn't know that that was an option for them. And some of the teachers and administrators told me, Frances, you should just go to, our high school. We don't really think you're going to make it. It's like you're grieving the loss of a person that you used to be, but I think also at that age, you know how you don't know how to identify what that feeling is.
Frances, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan, for having me. Really appreciate it. Love with what you guys are doing, and so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, you are probably not as excited as I am to have you here, because one of the bits that I love doing about this podcast is I get to meet awesome people and hear their story. And I'm looking forward to sort of breaking down where you're coming from and where you've got to today. So it should be a fun way to kickstart my day and to finish off yours.
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, Francis, look, there's a lot of people who are going to be listening into this show. They're not going to know a lot about you. So please just introduce yourself, let us know who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everyone. I'm Frances Garcia. I'm a co-founder and chief growth officer for a company and startup called Postseason. We're an ed tech startup building resources for former athletes, built by athletes for athletes. And why this mission and this startup is so important to me is I'm actually a former Division I volleyball player, collegiate volleyball player in the U.S. Went to Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington. And for those who don't know where that is, it's the most northwest state of the U.S., right below Vancouver, Canada. So very cold. I say that because I was born and raised in sunny California, so Los Angeles, California. So that transition already it was just so cold. But
I don't think we pay enough
just
attention to weather transitions in our lives, do we? We always let that slide, but it is quite a
we
big one for you.
always let that slide. But cold and snow is a whole nother thing, especially if you've never had to use your ID card to scrape ice off your windshield. That's an experience. So, I mean, I definitely got made fun of quite a bit, but nonetheless, it was great. But yeah, I come from a very diverse family, diverse background. My dad is actually from Manila, Philippines, and his family, they migrated to California. And my mom was born in Southern California, but her parents are from Guadalajara, Mexico. So a blend of two amazing cultures. So that makes me first generation Filipino American, second generation Mexican American, and the first in my family to get recruited to play a Division I sport. And especially culturally, you think about, a lot of, at the time, many years ago when I played, a lot of girls weren't leaving home. Culturally, that just isn't what we do. We stay home to take care of the family till we're 30, and then we, marry off and go and do the adult thing. But I was living my best life and playing a sport and a dream, living out the dream that I thought of when I was a young girl. So
Yeah.
a lot that was not just like really a major accomplishment though for myself. I'm actually 5 feet and 4 inches, and I don't know what the conversion is in the metrics that you use over there, but it's very short relative to a lot
Yeah.
of the players that play volleyball. I have to do a lot of this most of the time, looking up. But it was really, this accomplishment was for all the young girls that looked like me, that are Pacific Islander or Latina, that didn't have the opportunity or didn't know that that was an option for them. And so being able to even just make it to that part of life, it meant everything for me, for visibility, for representation, and just like, just it was really good for the heart. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
wonderful. Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's a great introduction. So much to understand about that because I'm imagining, given your heritage, you talked there about your height at 5'4", and I'm there and I'm thinking, how does that relate to volleyball? I mean, we're meeting each other, virtually, so I don't know how tall you are, but I'm thinking, okay, I'm taking Mexican and Filipina. I'm not getting 6'5", okay,
Yep, yep.
and then not only that, with that sort of emerging generation that you would have been. I mean, how typical was it, or how typical has it been for your peers or for your cousins, uncles to go to university?
I think in my cousin lineage, it was the move. I think that's what our parents worked really hard to make sure and sacrificed to make sure that was the next step for us. So it wasn't a weird conversation that we were going to college. I just didn't have anyone really to resonate on the athletic side of things. Um, at 10, my parents put me in I actually played basketball first. So that was my first love.
Yeah.
I played with the boys because there were not a lot of girls camps or opportunities for girls to play at that age. And so I just was really good athletically. I just, that's all I really wanted to do is play basketball, play basketball. And then volleyball came and I was like, volleyball, volleyball, volleyball. And a coach finally said, I think you should put your kid in some club sports. I think she will find a lot more benefit in I think she'll adjust well. And the rest is history. I started traveling really young on travel teams. And again, bless my parents, like they figured out that was my thing amongst, I have three younger brothers. So out of all of it, that was my thing. And they really made sure that, all right, Frances, this is your dream. This is what you said you want to do. We're going to hold you accountable to it, or else we're pulling you out. And I was like, no, I don't know. Nope. We're going to do this. So a lot of sacrifices went into that. I missed family things. I missed being a teenager at some moments. Quinceañeras, all the cultural cool things that they got to do. I missed those moments with friends and people from my
Oh,
community for, just for this dream. So yeah, it
yeah.
was definitely an adjustment. Now that I look back, I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it all over again and probably
Yeah.
better. So
I'm probably
yeah.
better. Well, let's jump straight into that. What do you mean by better?
Oh man, I mean, being an athlete, we always like drill down into like I remember moments of where I missed the ball, and they were game winning moments or just moments where I was like, oh, if I just would have stepped this way or I was a second ahead. We're always that way, and I think better meaning when I mentioned I missed a lot of opportunities for social life, and that I feel like I could have trained harder because now knowing what I know now as an adult, I wasn't really missing much. Yeah, there were moments, but there was also, teenage up to no good. So I would have just spent a lot more time really refocusing, how I could have been a better player mentally too. I think the mental game is so important. I see a lot of young athletes now. Um, they have to deal with social media. I did not have to deal with that. And
Mhm.
so, being when I follow players like Kobe Bryant, he talks about the Mamba mentality. That's a real thing. And
Yeah.
um, I love, him talking about like getting up a couple hours extra in the day to just get more reps in. And when you just think about that, and even in your professional life,
Yeah.
it's incredible. So yeah, that's what I mean by better. I'd love just better opportunities. Everything can always be better, but
Yeah.
we are where we're supposed to be.
Well, yeah, we are exactly right, and I guess what
Mhm,
you're talking there, it makes me think about that reflection. So even now, as
mhm,
we've finished our athletic careers, at least to that standard, because we can still do it, but it's not
mhm.
the same level. But when we think about when we reflect on those moments and the opportunities that we had, it's true. We start to see elements where I could have tried harder this time, or I could have done that bit extra because do you know what? It was okay. It would have played
Right.
out. It's just harder to see that at the moment.
Oh, yes. And how old are you at the time? 16, 17, 18, when you're making a crucial decision to go to
Yeah.
university, and which one's the right one? You have to leave
Mm.
home, and you know, all those things. You don't know. You're juggling that and then still trying to catch up socially and
Mm.
emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
One has to give. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when did you realize you were good enough to play, Division One? When did you realize that was a real opportunity for you?
Like I said, I was playing basketball at the time, sixth grade. I really committed to the training, and my parents took us to UCLA men's and women's basketball games, and I looked at the court, and I remember we would go out. That was our family outing. We would go Tuesday whenever the games were. Right, I remember going at least once a week. Um, Best way to also, if you have a large family and feed them, it's like the best investment you can do, and you do everything together as a family. You go, you eat, it's entertainment, it's fun. But that moment I saw, I think I remember her name's Erica Gomez, so a girl, that looked like me, not as tall as the rest of them, but I was like, I want to do that. So about sixth or seventh grade, which is 12 years old, 13 years old.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that was the moment I said, I want to, that's what I want to do. The moment I realized I was good was when I was making the club teams that were being able to travel, and get seen by college scouts. So once I got to see the scouts in the stands, and then they were, adding me to lists, that was like a moment I was like, oh, this is a real thing. And so then it became more real, for me, and I had to really commit. So,
Yeah, and you've already spoken about that commitment and the bit of sacrifice
mhm.
that you had to make on that journey. So when you're on this journey, what did you aspire to become?
I just wanted to get to college. I wanted to get to college and play on that platform, because I felt like once you get to that platform, you can really leverage that for really anything. It's a launch pad. It's what 2%, 1% go into playing college, and then even further, it's the same percentage or even less that go professional. So, I was inspired by a college player. So then
Yeah.
I saw myself like I would love to do that and more. And I don't know what comes after that, but I know after this there's going to be something further, because it got me going just by going to watch one game, and
Wow.
it hit a light bulb. So I aspired to be that person for other young girls that were coming to watch me play.
It's beautiful. It really is. And
Thank
you
you.
know what I do love about that is whether she knew it or not, but she was being a role model by playing, by being one of the first to break that barrier, be it, you know, whatever it was, but you saw something in her that resonated with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yep.
gives you that bit of inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and there's a lot of other dynamics that came into it. So the middle school, elementary school, it's kindergarten through eighth grade, that I went to. At that point, you either go to the public school system or you go to a private school. And because my parents didn't have really the knowledge of like how do we get her to where she needs to be, we looked at the private schools that were actually recruiting me to come play for their programs. And some of the teachers and administrators told me, Frances, you should just go to our high school. We don't really think you're going to make it. So that's another. When you ask me, what also fueled that, that narrative fueled me. Like, oh, okay, you don't think I can, but I know I can. And so that continued to really. I'm going to make it there because I'm going to show you that I deserve to be there too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So many, I think so many of us, I want to say, but so many athletes, as someone says, no, you can't. And there's this sort of defiance nature that comes in that says, yes, I can, and I'll show you. And, we kind of make well, it becomes an additional fuel to the fire, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Added motivation.
I love that. That's where the fighting spirit starts to really shine through. Now, you spoke there about that. You knew once you could get there, something else would happen. You'd be able to have a platform. So for you, certainly going through college or leaving college, things have changed now with nil and those elements. So what was it like? Let's talk a bit about that. So for you at college, what did you want to do with the platform and what happened?
Yeah, great question. It's interesting, and I'm sure you experienced this as well. they don't talk about what happens when you get there. You find out as you go. I loved my team. I will say, I've made some really lifelong friends. But I think it's interesting in the female game female sports side of things, we start transitioning a lot earlier than the male sports, because there aren't, at the time, were not very many opportunities to go professional. So you
Mhm.
found that, I found that a lot of my teammates were already, I wouldn't say checked out, but they were checking out. And so that was jarring for me, because I was thinking I'm going to go into, I went to this UCLA game. I see how incredible, like, they're out there in the community, they're signing, basketballs and volleyballs and doing this and that. And I got to my program, and no diss to my program, but it just was not the same when I got there. So I kind of had to figure out what impact, what did I want to do? What did I want to get out of it? So there were opportunities to go do camps in Seattle and this and that. So I always signed up for that. I always wanted to do that. I was able to coach club volleyball. So some girls who've never played volleyball before. And I thought I was like, okay, this is going to be challenging, but I'm going to do it. And so I always found myself trying to find other things. So, I mean, that's the nature of sport, right? You don't know, you train for it, but when you get into the game, everything's a variable. So
Absolutely.
similar, I would say similar situation. I just wanted to do what I could, with the best, with what I had. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating
Mhm,
that experience you had rocking up,
mhm,
and at least you having a sense that, boom, from here we're going to spring on to greatness. There's even more to come.
mhm,
But it
mhm,
sounds like for many, reaching college day one was it. It was like, boom, done it. There wasn't this perception or this recognition that as an elite athlete, there's so more that they can give and
mhm,
indeed create, right?
mhm. Yep. And I think, come certain people, they coming from different backgrounds, like they maybe come from a lineage of doctors, or their parents are in finance, and so for them they have a roadmap of like, oh, I'm just going to get this degree, and that's what I have an internship lined up for me when I graduate. That wasn't necessarily the path for me. My dad's in healthcare, my mom was in nonprofit, on the administrative side, but they weren't trying to influence me one way or the other. And there's a running joke that most Filipinos become nurses or what have you. There's always like that the cultural joke, but I just met, I said, Dad, listen, like, it's just not going to be me. I'm really sorry. Your hopes of me becoming a nurse is not going to happen. But at that time, I think Facebook and Instagram were the epitome of, like, '09 to when or sorry, '05 to '09 was just like the epitome of social media. It was like on the rise. And unfortunately, where my school was located, a lot of what they were pushing in the business school was a lot of finance and accounting. So a lot of
Yeah.
big companies. Everyone wanted to do finance or accounting. That was just the thing. Marketing wasn't a big push. Our program for that was really small. So when I got back home, that's when I really started to get more influenced into new media, sports media. Everything was in, and LA is the hub. It's Hollywood, right? That's where
Yes.
some of the big
Yeah. Yeah.
networks are here. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I came back home and really kind of settled in here. So
Okay. So
yeah.
just understanding that period, coming out of college,
Hmm.
playing Div One, getting your degree, so
Hmm.
getting the qualification, nailing that. But it sounds like not really having a sense of what you were going to do next. Is that
Correct.
right?
That
Yeah.
is correct. A lot of the time you're focused on, I just need to get my playing time. That's why I'm here. I know I'm going to graduate. I know I'm smart. I get good grades, but this is my time to maximize, because I don't know if there is any more after this. And I figured, okay, I'll figure it out afterwards. I'm not too worried. I just need to be super present and really fight for my spot here. And if there is a chance for me to play professionally, when I got to my last year, then let's take it. But yeah, volleyball was really my focus. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And understandably so, right?
Hmm.
Understandably so that your focus is volleyball because that's
Hmm.
that's what helped get you to that college. So
Hmm.
I'm curious then, you spoke then about the influence of being in LA and
Hmm.
how did you open yourself up to influence?
Hmm. That's
to
a
help
great
sort of shape
question.
your path? Yeah.
That's a great question. I'm it's funny, I'm kind of introverted in a way, but when it comes to, I guess, business settings, I'm a really good networker. So the high school that I went to, it's Notre Dame High School, and there's a lot of kids that I went to that have parents that were in the industry. And so I started there, networking with them, like, hey, um, do you think I can talk to your dad or your mom about what they do? And really just trying to understand what kind of jobs were out there. But this is actually really pivotal. I graduated in '09, so that was the time of the recession. So actually no one was so talk about another like hurdle, massive hurdle. I came back to LA with a degree, and then remember my plan was I'm going to figure it out. And I get home and nobody is hiring, not even Starbucks, not even a bagger at our grocery store. Like they weren't hiring anyone because of how tough it was. So and I it's a great question, but at that time none of that applied. Everything was out the window. It was like just get anything at this point that's going to just make you some money and get you experience so you could put it on your resume. So now I'm back in fight or flight. I'm back at the bottom trying to claw my way back up. And yeah, the influence didn't start till after the market started getting back up. It just I worked in sales, and that's kind of how I worked my way through really finding that influence.
And what was the hardest part for you during that period? Because you just come from college, Div 1, top of what you wanted to do. How was that period for you?
It's like you're grieving the loss of a person that you used to be, but I think also at that age you don't know how you don't know how to identify what that feeling is. um I was also coming back home to, again, remember my parents are Filipino and Mexican. It's very strict, very, so I'm coming home from being gone for 4 years, and now I'm having to adjust to their rules under their house. So there's that component. And then there's, you know, me grieving my sports career. Will I ever go back? Can I go back? Is there a way? And then there's, what the heck am I going to do? How am I going to make money? How am I going to make sense of what I just, from 10 years old to 18 to 21, how am I going to make sense of this now? And in your brain you try to tell yourself, I have to do it now so that I can prove everybody. Like you're telling this narrative, like I have to prove why I left and now I'm back and I don't have anything. So yeah, I was going through a lot. There was a lot of just really unresolved. I it's really tough to even put into words. And when we work with athletes in postseason, we almost kind of have the same moment. They're like, oh, no one's really asked me this. Wow, I don't know how to answer this. Everyone kind of gets to that moment. So there are a lot of mixed feelings that were happening during that time period. And we call that that first year out. And the first year out is mainly also like 1 to 3 years of kind of like
Mm.
feeling isolated,
Yeah,
don't know who you are, no identity, like self identity is like who, what, where.
yeah,
um you're missing your team, you're missing the resources, your routine, your routinized, like, okay,
absolutely.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday you're here, Tuesday, Thursday you're here.
Yes.
um you're kind of, now it's on you to figure that out. So
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least we have
yeah.
that sense it's on you by yourself, and we're quite unique. And
Hmm.
look, this is really why we're having this conversation. This is what
Hmm.
this podcast is about, is
Hmm.
letting athletes listen to that story or the story from someone
Hmm.
else and think, oh, these are the little bits that I might resonate with, and help
Hmm.
reset in some respects. And I
Yeah.
mean, we're here, with the beauty and luxury of time to be able to look back and recognize, hey, this was the period I was in. you know for you, what happened next? How did those influences start to come into your life and start moving you towards the point where you are today?
No, that's another great question. The fuel that I got, you have to lean on. I just leaned on being an athlete again. I said, okay, I don't know this, I don't know that, but what I do know is know how to be an athlete. And so, what are those things that I did to get to university? What did I do? And now I need to replicate that in this instance. So, I went actually back to coach. I coached at a school called Sierra Canyon High School. I coached middle school and helped on their high school team. And then from there, I got a club job. I said, let me just go back to my roots. Let me kind of just figure it out there. And I ended up not I don't think I'll ever coach again. But it really helped me define, like, it defined a path. Like, I want to be in entertainment. I want to be in media, because that was all the parents actually that of the kids that I coached were working in something like that. And I said, okay, I'm going to leverage this opportunity to network with the
Mm.
parents, and really just I get to spend all this time with them every weekend. So why not sit there and talk to them, bend their ear? I have the time. I spent a lot of time also training their kids one on one.
Yeah.
And so through that, a lot of them also were very keen on helping me. They were
Mm.
like, we really love, you've got good energy, you've got good business sense. And again, the social media stuff was really popping off
Yeah.
in everywhere. And I
Yeah.
was so drawn to it. I'm like, how do I learn skills? I was like, if you have a sports brand or a fitness brand, why are you not promoting that on social media? That was something that I was thinking. So there were a lot of different little opportunities that kept popping up, of like trying to help someone actually set up their Facebook account. Some people had no idea, and I was like, "Oh, that's easy. Boop, 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 done." And I said, "Oh, you can then post this and this and this." And they're like, "Wow, that's a great idea." So it was just a culmination of different places where I put myself in a situation. I said, "Okay, I'm going to be here for a bit. I'm going to work on it, but from here, I need to start being aware of like what opportunities and what influences I can find that I feel like like literally drawn to, and I'm just going to go with that." And so from there, just um, I remember I kept applying for different jobs. I said, I want to work in sports media. How do I do that? And I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
coffees I've had or phone calls I've had with people of like, how do
How
I
was your
do this?
caffeine intake during that period? You know.
Yeah, so many moments like, can I please, just want to shadow you at work, or can I intern for free? I've said that so many times. And that goes back to when, you're getting recruited, you have to send out your tape, you have to send out
Mm.
emails, you have to keep knocking on doors to coaches to get them to see you. And so I just remembered doing that. I said, I'm going to do that in this space, but I'm going to take a different approach. I think when people meet me, they like me. I think I'm very personable. I work really hard. And something worked out. I ended up getting a job at a media buying agency, and unfortunately I really liked it there. I was there for a year, but unfortunately they went under. But
Yeah.
through that job, one of our customers was Fox Sports. And
Right.
so I reached out, and he loved working with me, and he said, hey, you know what, send me your resume, I'm going to walk it over to the marketing department. They may have something, no promises, um, but we'll see.
Yeah.
A week later, I get a call. They're interviewing me. I'm sitting in the Fox Sports offices of the regional network, and I end up getting the job. And so my first job into the industry of
Mhm.
couldn't be the most perfect job at the
Yeah.
time as a marketing coordinator. It
Yes.
happened, but it took 3 years, I would say, after graduating and
Yeah.
adding that other layer of the recession
Yes.
to really get to that point. But it's taking that mentality, right, of knocking on the doors,
Yeah.
doing the work when no one's looking, doing the things people don't want to do,
Mm.
and doing it in a unique way to stand out. Remember, again, I'm 5'4", right? So
Yes.
how did I get recruited? I had to jump out the gym. I had to make sure I sent my weightlifting tapes, show them how athletic I was. I ran track. I played basketball. So I had to do that same thing in my
The athletic.
career after
Yeah.
sports to even
Yeah.
just get a look, and it worked. So
There's so much to unpick because that's just
yeah.
brilliant. The first bit that resonates me with that is actually when you were at the point where you didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
You found a comfort place. You found a happy place, and that was in the gym, in the with the team, and you went coaching where you knew you had a talent and you could move people on. You could give them your skills, and what's beautiful about that is from there you recognized, well, you could speak to the parents and you got that influence from the parents and you could talk to them because you established a relationship of trust. They thought you were great. And I
Hmm.
love the way you said they recognized your energy, they recognized your work ethic,
Hmm.
and you you then help them with simple things. opening up a Facebook account, doing bits like that, that gained trust, that demonstrated that you could do these certain things. So next thing, they were super happy to support you in whatever came next. And
Yep.
I love that. That's such a great breakdown of, hey, here's a way of actually breaking into an industry. Do what you're good
Mhm.
at. Make friends with the parents. Build
Very
trust.
not traditional way,
Yeah,
right? You look at these
that's right.
movies, you look at these, New York high rises and people in
Yeah.
suits walking up there, and they would never, I have a lot of friends in the legal industry, and like Francis, I would never do something like that. That's just not, you don't do that. Like, and I said, well, why not? And they're like, it's frowned upon. I said, it's different industries, right? Very, very
Yeah.
different. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Had to figure it out. Again,
That's
lean
right.
back on your athletic, your athlete career. Had to do
Yeah,
something.
but you did it. It was still done in a way that's
Hmm.
authentic because you're doing something you love. You're imparting that
Hmm.
information, and so it builds trust. And it
Hmm.
builds trust to say, "Hey, you know what, Francis? Someone like you, I
Hmm.
would definitely introduce you to somebody over there who does this
Yeah.
type of work. Absolutely fine." And
Yeah.
that, as you described, that's really what we do off the court. In
Hmm.
our professional careers here,
Yeah.
that network is about building trust and advocating for one another. And
Yeah.
you demonstrated that, getting you to that
Thank you.
pretty awesome role.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really cool.
important too. I think when anyone goes back to coach, they need to remember, and for me personally, I wouldn't be here without my coaches. I was a player that I was, and for better or for worse, or however anyone wants to describe it, but I would always ask a lot of questions.
Mm,
My parents didn't have all the answers. Again, they've never played. My mom played in high school, but I mean, not even to this level at all. And so they're like, just go talk to your coach. Go talk. They would always just say, go talk to them. Go talk to him. Go talk to
yeah,
him. And um, if you don't ask, you're never gonna know, right? So I remember them being so. I've had some great coaches. I've had some coaches. But I remember if I was ever gonna coach again, I wanted to make sure again that impact, right? The way that girl from UCLA made me feel when I watched her play and when she signed, my shirt and everything. I wanted to give that back, and I always, anytime it's someone's child, right? It's someone, they're putting their trust in you to care for the most important thing in their life. I want to
yeah,
make sure that they leave with a great memory. um, there's a lot of stuff that you also learn as a player being a coach, and you're like, oh, that's why my
yes,
coach did that
yes,
and that's why. So whether I coach or not ever again, it was a really good reflection tool and a point in my pivot in life, to do. And so I actually encourage a lot of athletes when they don't know where they're going, say just go back to where it started. If it's 2 months, a year, 6 months, just go back and figure, and then you'll get some inspiration there. I said, kind of sounds corny and weird, but I tell you, every time I kind of feel a little lost, I kind of go back and I'll mentor a girl or pull a girl to the side, or hey, tell me what's up, what's going on, let's talk about it. And then it's almost a mirror for me too, because I'm advising, but it's like, hey, are you doing these things? Or are you
that's
checking in with yourself?
yeah. Oh,
Yep.
it's really sound. It's sound, and
Yeah.
it does make it. It makes absolute sense
Hmm.
to go and do that. And there you speak about that spark of inspiration for those who you would be coaching.
Hmm.
So today, um, you're running an awesome venture, and
Hmm.
I'm curious then as to what was the spark, what was the meeting moment, what was that moment that really came out and started to you to move you on this path now.
Oh, the at the height of the pandemic. So the founder of Postseason, his name's Jelani Jenkins. He's an NFL 4-year veteran, 5-year veteran. He's retired now. He actually founded Postseason in 2021. After his career in American football, he went through what we all know as the lost period. He couldn't figure it out and was smoking marijuana, sitting on the couch playing video games, just really stuck in this eh, moment and just couldn't get out of it. And we use this as part of our pitch. His wife actually took a photo of him playing video games, and there's a bong and it's just a mess everywhere, and she gave him the Polaroid picture, and he looked at it and he's like, damn, like I need to do something, I need to change, this isn't me. and he started to really work on self-identity and self-discovery. So he took a lot of courses, went to conferences, and birthed this incredible idea. He's like, what if I created, a platform that was going to be able to teach athletes, give them a roadmap, but also not just my roadmap. I get to invite other people from other athletes that are retired or whatnot to share their roadmap on my platform. And so their birthed Postseason. I had actually met him through a mutual friend. We went to Jamaica to teach a sports camp. I got invited to coach. We got put in the same pod of coaching. His wife was there, so we were all 10 days together. Now we're like best friends, right? But fast forward to the pandemic, I had a realization moment. I was actually
Hi, it's Ryan Gonsalves here. Thanks for tuning in today. I just want to take a moment to ask you an important favor. To help grow this channel, one thing will do that above more than anything else. Please hit that subscribe button. By hitting that subscribe button, you help me to grow the channel, allowing me to create more tailored content, improving the quality, and also to develop additional services such as the workshops, one-on-one sessions specifically designed to support elite athletes in that difficult transition to that career beyond sport. So if you want to join me on this journey to help inspire, guide, and connect individuals to find their second wind, please hit that subscribe button.
I thrived in the pandemic. I was used to working remote because I freelanced quite a bit. And once everything shut down, they were hiring a lot of my position remote. So like, oh, I'm killing it. This is great.
Yes.
And then I also decided to get my master's in business because I realized I don't want to just be a social media manager anymore. I don't want to just be someone that's on the ground. And because I'm getting older, I'm like, I want to hold position in higher roles. So I decided to get my master's in business at Pepperdine. So within that moment, I'm like, okay, but what is next? What really is next? And I saw this, one of my friends from high school, she runs a podcast called Good Moms, Bad Choices. And they were hosting retreats for moms, single moms that just needed to get away and like be themselves. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, it's a safe space. It's a beautiful location. I was like, why don't we have this for like my female athlete friends? Why don't we do this? We could work out, compete, have fun. Like, this is great. Like, who's doing this? And then Jelani had posted he launched Postseason. And I was like, what if I reached out to him? But then I was like, he's probably like, we haven't, and it's been years then since the camp. I hadn't talked to him. And so I kind of let that sit. And I actually went to a coffee shop to meet up with a friend, and he actually walks in. And I'm like, I think that's Jelani. And I was like, but we're all wearing masks. I'm like, she's like, say hi. You guys are friends. Like, talk to him about. And I had just told her what I wanted to do, and I let it go. But later, I actually messaged him. I said, hey, bro, like, I hope all is well. I thought I saw you at this coffee shop. Was that you? He's like, yeah. I was like, listen, I love what you're doing with Postseason. Any way that I can help, I'm in. You got me. Let me know. And a few months later, I just was a small role on the growth team. We were going to launch a podcast called The Next Play Mentality. And then I start, of course, because I'm just me, started raising my hand a lot. Like, okay, can I get more involved in the product? So I'm here having a full-time job, getting my master's, and then now side hustling with this startup. And as everyone knows, with a startup, there's ebbs and flows. People leave, there's pivots within the roadmap, and it ended up being really last two standing. And we had two other folks that were with us, but really like that were really driving this vehicle was really us two left. And so with all the work that I got to do, he was like, all right, you're going to be chief growth officer. And then recently, just last November, he let me know, he was like, you're going to be my co-founder the person I've been looking for. And so the rest is history. And here we are building something that I could not even imagine, that I couldn't imagine a more perfect role for me.
No, I mean, from the journey. In some respects, you talk there, and it's like that's like the what do you call the prologue. That sounds like that introduction towards
this next great chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And here we're talking about this athlete transition and how we move from athlete into that corporate world. And right now, this is that next shift for you, moving from, freelancing corporate to, okay, you're co-founder, you are the growth engine now. How have you found, or to what extent have you recognized that this is another transition for you?
Ryan, I think we forget there's never a nonstop of transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's always a transition,
Yeah.
whether people want to recognize it or not, or people avoid it. But this definitely is a transition for me, um, because I'm so also used to being behind the scenes. I'm also used to being part one of many, working on a team of folks and have someone lead, right? That's also been my role on the team on when I played volleyball. I was a utility player. I was placed in different that I was comfortable with that. I'm like, okay, put me anywhere. I'm good. But now it's Frances, you need to lead and you need to help move this forward because I can't do it by myself. Being called to do that is there's actually no words for that. It's just like, okay,
So
let's go.
what have, so what have you done to cope with that?
um Looking back at all of the challenges and things that I faced at the corporate level, again, like I said, it was a dream job, but everything has a price. um I dealt with, gender inequities, the
Mm.
situations, racial thing, there's all the things that you hear that happen, and that was, and within sports world, you know we were carving out spaces for people of color, for women. So I remember those moments and say, okay, um, this is nothing compared to, I don't want to go back there,
Mhm.
and I want to create something where that doesn't happen. So I
Yeah.
have this opportunity in my hand, and so many days, him and I both, like, we just like, oh, like we do want to give up because some of this stuff is so hard.
Mm.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's like,
It is.
and
It
it's
is.
out of your control at some point sometimes, and you're just like, we just did all the things, but then now here's this hurdle, and you're like,
Mm.
it is what it is. And how I cope is I just remember all of those challenging moments that I went through. I don't want to go back, and now I get to also now change course. So I kind of flip it. I cope with by saying, like, flipping it to, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to step up. You're not going to get this chance again, so you better take it. The self
Yeah.
talk, right? You
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah. Absolutely. And the self-talk
yeah.
is key. It really
Hmm.
is. So, when you look back then and you think of sort of mini you, Francis,
Hmm.
coming, or young you coming and asking yourself
Hmm.
as a role model, what can you do best to help with that transition, find that second wind, move into that sort of postseason phase?
Hmm.
What guidance do you give?
I would tell myself, I th- I would tell myself, take this, don't take everything seriously, but take how you feel seriously. I think a lot of times as athletes, we're like, okay, I'm fine, I'm good, right? Next
Mhm.
play, next play. But when it's the matters of the heart and it's outside of the court, it's really, I think a lot of people think we need to be super tough. And Jelani and I are really big on empathy, and we're really big on being who you are, where you are, and we'll meet you where you're at. So, and that's the only way I think we're going to be able to crack that code. So for me, I would tell my younger self, like, don't take things so seriously, but take it seriously. And what I mean by that is, like, not everything's going to go your way, but you're totally capable of doing anything you possibly can if you do take that seriously. If I
Yeah.
wanted this role, I can get this role.
Mhm.
But there's always going to be people in the background saying, this, or yourself telling you, I don't know if I can go up on stage and pitch in front of VCs and
Mm.
be in a room networking asking for $1 million. Like, that's lucrative, but you can, and people do. So that's one thing I would tell my younger self. Um, in the transition period, ask for help. I I think I did that really well. Um, but there's never, I've seen a lot of people that isolate to the point where you don't hear. There's some friends that I hadn't heard from for 10 years, and then they just popped up, and that makes me sad to hear that they felt that nobody could understand with what they're going through. So always ask for help and be, there is someone there for you. It's just a matter of actually, finding out that. So
Yeah.
those are a couple things I would say for sure.
Thanks for that, Frances. I think that's
Yeah, of
brilliant.
course.
And look, I like that. I like the so being aware of your emotions and not
Hmm.
brushing them under the carpet, but actually facing into it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be okay, but recognize your emotions and actually perhaps use it to fuel you moving forwards. And
Yeah.
I think that that's great advice or great guidance for someone who's stepping into that transition period. And I'd probably add to really to that second point around self isolating is for those listening and for those who are sort of aware is actually to reach out to those to those former teammates or for that athlete who you haven't heard from for a while, and just
Yep.
reach out to them and let them know, hey, I'm going through it too. Come
Yep.
join me. uh,
Yep.
let's go grab a coffee and just maybe have that conversation.
A
So
100%.
yeah.
And 100%. It just takes that ask, are you okay?
Mm.
And the answer. I mean, it's kind of rhetorical, right? They're not, because you haven't
Yeah,
heard from them. So,
that's
yeah, being aware of your teammates. Yeah, that would be I agree. I would say that I think for women, again, like I said, our transition starts so much earlier. So I think
it.
that when we do leave the sport, we're already moving on to other things, but
Yeah,
we forget, like, you know, also there's other transitions: becoming a mother, becoming a spouse, becoming partner at your law firm. Like, there are a lot of transitions. And so checking back in,
yeah,
using that bond of sport, even if it's just like, hey, I'm thinking about you, I'm here if you need me, goes a long way, I think. And I encourage other athletes to don't just leave your teammates with your grief of sport.
mm,
Take them out of it and just keep them in mind. You don't have to be besties with them, but check on them every once in a while. It's definitely needed for sure. So
yeah. Thank you. Thanks,
yeah,
Francis. I've loved this conversation, and
same.
there are going to be people who will want to follow your story or reach out. What's the best way for them to follow you and get in contact?
Oh, you can find us on our website, www.postseasonapp.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and it's Frances Garcia. It's Frances. So if you type in IS, which is what people normally do, you won't find me. You can, that will pop up. I'm also on Instagram. It's at Frances Live. Again, FranceSLIV as in Victor E. And we're also on Postseason's also on Instagram as well. But just Google us; we'll pop up, and we're here for you.
Beautiful. Francis, thanks very much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. This was fun. Super appreciate it.